The Lost Generation. Turning 17 during the era of the Lost Generation meant swapping birthday cake for mud pies in a trench, with fireworks in the form of bombs exploding overhead. Born between 1883 and 1900, these folks faced the brutal realities of World War I, turning life into the worst game of dodgeball ever, with bullets instead of balls. Millions didn't make it out, and those who did come back faced the Spanish flu, a deadly pandemic that wiped out over 50 million people. Talk about having no luck. As if that wasn't enough, they got an early taste of the Great Depression, making finding a job harder than locating a Wi-Fi signal during a storm. Poverty was everywhere, and the future looked about as bright as a blackout. These poor souls were called lost, not because they got drunk and couldn't find their way home, but because they were battered and bruised by life's misfortunes. But even the stormiest clouds have silver linings. The 1920s rolled in, and it was like everyone decided to throw the biggest after-party ever. The economy boomed. Jazz music filled the air, cars started rolling out, and people invested in the stock market like it was the latest hot app. Radios became the new must-have gadget, and electricity lit up homes, transforming life from medieval to modern. Imagine trying to explain Uber Eats to someone back then. They'd think you're a wizard. The 1920s didn't just bring flappers and jazz, they marked a huge economic shift. From horse-drawn carriages to cars, and from candlelit dinners to electric lights, the world was changing fast. This generation laid down the foundation for the modern economy we know today. Despite being knocked around by war, disease, and economic hardship, they paved the way for technological advancements and economic growth. So, while they might have felt lost, they were actually trailblazers, lighting the path to the future. The Silent Generation. Born between 1928 and 1945, the Silent Generation grew up in the shadow of the Great Depression and World War II, shaping their no-nonsense and resilient nature. Imagine being in school and worrying more about food rationing than recess. The Great Depression hit hard, with unemployment rates sky high and people lining up for bread like it was the latest iPhone release. The stock market crash of 1929 wiped out savings faster than a bad haircut trend, and economic hardships became a daily reality. As if the economy struggles weren't enough, World War II brought another round of chaos. Young men swapped their school books for rifles, and women took over the factories, making everything from bullets to bombs. Everyone had to pitch in. Picture your grandma as Rosie the Riveter, flexing her muscles and getting stuff done. It was like history decided to throw a double whammy at them. After the war, the economy needed a serious makeover. Enter the GI Bill, offering returning soldiers education and home loans, leading to a suburban boom. Rows of identical houses with perfectly manicured lawns sprouted up, and the Silent Generation moved to the suburbs, started families, and laid the groundwork for the prosperity of the baby boomers. It was like trading in a clunker for a brand new car, with the American dream suddenly within reach. This generation earned their name not because they had nothing to say, but because they worked hard without making a fuss. They were the backbone of the post-war recovery, building a stable and prosperous society out of the ashes of conflict and depression. They ensured that future generations had better opportunities and a brighter future. Despite growing up in tough times, the Silent Generation's dedication and perseverance were instrumental in setting the stage for the economic stability and growth that followed. They might have been silent, but their contributions spoke volumes, shaping the modern world we live in today. The Greatest Generation. Picture being handed a front row seat to history's wildest roller coaster ride. Born between 1901 and 1927, the Greatest Generation lived through the aftermath of World War I, the roaring highs of the 1920s, and the crushing lows of the Great Depression, only to be hit by World War II. As kids, they saw factories pumping out tanks and planes like hotcakes, with governments spending money faster than a teenager with a new credit card. Inflation was so bad, you'd need a wheelbarrow of cash just to buy a loaf of bread. But then, the Roaring Twenties kicked in, throwing the biggest party ever. Jazz, flappers, and people buying cars and radios like they were the latest gadgets. The stock market was hotter than a summer sidewalk, and everyone wanted a piece of the action. But just when things were looking up, the Great Depression hit like a ton of bricks. The stock market crash of 1929 wiped out millions of investors in the blink of an eye. The economy nosedived faster than a roller coaster, and unemployment soared to about 25%. People lost their savings, their homes, and their hope. And just when they thought it couldn't get worse, World War II erupted. Young men swapped their dancing shoes for combat boots again, and this war was even deadlier than the first. Over 60 million lives were lost, making it the deadliest conflict in history. But through all this chaos, the greatest generation witnessed incredible achievements. After the war, they didn't just sit around, they rebuilt the economy. This era saw the rise of legends like Alan Turing, who laid the groundwork for computer science and AI, and Grace Hopper, who developed the first compiler for computer programming. Thanks to them, we have the tech to stream endless cat videos today. Despite the turmoil, they established modern economic policies like social security and infrastructure projects that put people back to work. They showed that when life gives you lemons, you can build a lemonade empire. They turned adversity into opportunity, laying the foundation for future stability and growth. So, while they started with mud pies and financial nightmares, they ended up sharing a brighter, more resilient future for all of us. Baby boomers. Born in a world ready to rebuild and redefine itself, baby boomers entered the scene from 1946 to 1964. Factories that once made tanks and planes now churned out washing machines and televisions. Families were now concerned about which color TV to buy, not food rations. The post-war economy took off like a rocket. Jobs were plentiful and wages were rising. It was like playing Monopoly, but with real money. Families moved to the suburbs, trading cramped city apartments for spacious homes with lawns big enough to mow on Saturday mornings. The GI Bill made college accessible, leading to a more educated workforce. But with all this prosperity came a few bumps in the road. The 1970s oil crisis hit like a surprise pop quiz, and suddenly, people were lining up at gas stations like it was the release of the newest iPhone. Inflation soared and the economy crumbled. Yet the baby boomers weathered the storm, adapting to changes and pushing for advancements. This generation saw the birth of the modern tech industry. Imagine trying to explain the concept of the internet to someone in the 1960s. They'd probably think you're describing some sci-fi movie. But thanks to the baby boomers, personal computers became a household staple, and the groundwork for the digital age was laid. So, while they might be known for their love of rock and roll and rebellion, the baby boomers also played a crucial role in shaping the modern economy. They turned the post-war boom into a foundation for technological and economic growth that we benefit from today. Generation X. Growing up with the best of both worlds, Generation X experienced a unique blend of analog and digital realms. Born between 1965 and 1980, these folks had outdoor playtime without constant adult supervision and the dawn of video games to keep them entertained indoors. The 1980s brought an economic boom reminiscent of the baby boomers' early days. Wall Street traders with suspenders and big hairdos made money faster than you could say, "Blockbuster hit." The stock market was the place to be, and everyone wanted a piece of the action. But then came the crash of 1987, a financial wake-up call that hit harder than a Monday morning alarm. The early 90s recession had people clutching their wallets a little tighter. Jobs were harder to find, and economic security felt like a distant dream. Yet, Gen X proved to be resilient, finding innovative ways to adapt and thrive. This generation witnessed the tech revolution firsthand. The rise of personal computers, the internet, and mobile phones transformed life in ways previously unimaginable. Remember those giant brick phones? Gen Xers were among the first to embrace them, paving the way for today's sleek smartphones. They also saw the birth of social media, changing how we connect and communicate forever. Gen X may be known as the forgotten generation, but they laid the groundwork for the digital economy. They turned the economic challenges into opportunities, proving that adaptability and innovation are key to survival and success. Millennials. Born between 1981 and 1996, grew up during the rise of technology and witnessed the birth of social media. Instead of passing notes in class, they were instant messaging on AIM and later posting on Facebook. They entered the job market during the Great Recession of 2008, an economic disaster that made job hunting feel like a treasure hunt without a map. The housing market crashed, and many found themselves buried in student loan debt. It was like playing a game of Jenga, with the economy pulling out crucial blocks, causing everything to tumble. Despite these challenges, millennials are known for their resilience and adaptability. They embrace the gig economy, turning side hustles into full-time jobs. Freelancing, remote work, and digital entrepreneurship became the norm. Imagine explaining to a baby boomer that you could make a living by creating YouTube videos or managing social media accounts. They'd probably think you were joking. This generation also prioritized experiences over material possessions. Travel, dining out, and unique experiences became the new status symbols. They pushed for work-life balance and flexible work environments, changing the traditional 9-to-5 office culture. millennials may have faced the economic turbulence, but they navigated it with creativity and innovation. They've redefined work and lifestyle, making way for a more flexible and tech-savvy future. Generation Z. For Generation Z, born between 1997 and 2012, growing up with a smartphone in hand and Wi-Fi as essential as air is the norm. These digital natives have never known a world without the internet, social media, or streaming services. Instead of Sunday morning cartoons, they binge-watch entire seasons on Netflix. They watched their millennial predecessors struggle with the aftermath of the Great Recession and learned valuable lessons about financial stability. Gen Z is savvy, cautious, and pragmatic when it comes to money, prioritizing financial security and often choosing savings over spending. This generation is entering the workforce during a time of significant technological advancements. Automation, AI, and the gig economy are reshaping job opportunities. Imagine trying to explain to your grandpa that your job involves creating TikTok content or developing apps. He might think you're speaking a different language. Despite these challenges, Gen Z is incredibly resourceful. They leverage technology to create opportunities, from e-commerce businesses to online education platforms. They are the true digital entrepreneurs, using their tech skills to carve out new career paths. Gen Z is poised to be one of the most educated and diverse generations yet. They value inclusivity, sustainability, and social responsibility, pushing for a positive change in the world. They're not just digital natives, they're digital leaders, ready to tackle the economic challenges of the future with innovation and determination. Generation Alpha. Imagine growing up where voice assistants answer your questions and virtual reality is part of playtime. Generation Alpha, born from 2013 onwards, is experiencing a hyper-connected, technology-driven world where screens are their primary mode of interaction. The job market they will enter will be dominated by automation and AI, with education already transforming to match. Digital classrooms, interactive learning apps, and personalized education plans are the norm, preparing them for a future where tech skills are as crucial as reading and writing. Generation Alpha is also growing up in a world more aware of sustainability and environmental impact. They're likely to push for greener economies and more responsible consumption patterns. This generation will also inherit the economic legacies of their predecessors, navigating student debt, housing affordability, and job market fluctuations. But with their tech-savvy nature and innovative mindset, they're well equipped to tackle these challenges head-on. Generation Alpha may still be in their early years, but they're already showing signs of being the most tech-integrated and forward-thinking generation yet. They'll redefine education, work, and sustainability, shaping the future economy in ways we can only imagine. Generation Beta. Now, let's peek into the crystal ball for Generation Beta, those born from 2026 onwards. They'll grow up in an area of unparalleled technological advancements and interconnectedness, where flying cars and AI-driven personal assistants are part of daily life. This generation will face a landscape shaped by their predecessors' efforts towards sustainability and innovation. Jobs will be more fluid, with remote work and digital nomad lifestyles becoming even more mainstream. Education will continue to evolve, with immersive virtual reality experiences replacing traditional classrooms, and personalized learning paths tailored to individual strengths and interests. Generation Beta will also contend with the legacies of climate change and global economic fluctuations, needing to be adaptable, resilient, and innovative in finding solutions. They'll likely prioritize green technologies and sustainable practices, pushing for a circular economy where resources are reused and recycled efficiently. This generation will experience the blurring of lines between physical and digital worlds, with augmented reality enhancing everyday life. Despite the challenges, Generation Beta will have the tools and knowledge to create a more connected, sustainable, and prosperous world. They'll build on the foundations laid by the previous generations. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to check out our next video, subscribe, and turn on the notifications for the next updates.